And we are live, live indeed. So, we're going to be talking about a few different things today. Essentially, we'll be talking about the debate on who won the debate from last night, but also trying to figure out exactly what is going on with this Trump indictment in Georgia. Why does he keep on getting in trouble? Is it a conspiracy? Is it to do with the fact that the Democrats don't want Trump to be successful? We're about to find out. And even even from the psychological standpoint, imagine a situation whereby you have to go to an arraignment and there's a huge crowd of people outside. That also has to factor into the way that you feel. So, you have to wonder how Trump feels at this particular time.
On. Now is not the time for.
Okay, so it seems as if the Trump indictment is still going on. So, first of all, I'm going to go to the debate and talk about my thoughts on who won the debate, who actually came out on top, and we're going to find out. Prior to that, I'm going to drop the link in case anybody wants to join the live stream. Feel free to do so.
First debate of the 2024 presidential campaign, live at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee.
This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline.
Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for.
Now, if you notice, one thing that Desantis, Pence, a lot of the politicians who are on stage do is that they have a very contrived way of speaking, and maybe they're taught that in political science or debate prep, but it sounds very mechanical and somewhat contrived. You know, even if you listen to the way that they elongate the words, Joe Biden has, Joe Biden has.
Live at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee.
This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline.
Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience.
Yeah, and that appeared to be a jab at Vivek. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. Well, now may not be the time for on-the-job training, but if the person doing the job includes an individual who was able to build multi-billion-dollar companies, is a billionaire himself, you would think that he can probably do the job all right. Compare his personal successes to other people's on stage, then Vivek doesn't look too bad in that instance. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. Well, if a person has the right intellect and capability, they probably won't need much training because they would have already prepared prior to even getting into that position. And you can look throughout history. You can look throughout history to prove that point.
Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it.
I've had enough already.
I think it was quite interesting how, if you saw the debate last night, Vivek seems to be the only one who is consistently booed. Consistently. There seems to be, I don't know, it's almost as if the audience has to be pre-screened for people that are going to be supportive of one particular candidate or might be donors, etc. Because whenever everybody seems to boo the same person, it makes you think what is going on. And it is reminiscent of what happened last year with Trump. Everybody was booing him at certain points when he criticized some of the candidates on stage. So it just shows you that TV is not exactly accurate. You are not told everything that happens behind the scenes. So if a person boos you, you assume that, okay, maybe people in general dislike them, when that may not be the case. It might just be, okay, these are people who are donors or special interests, etc.
Tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here, and the last person in one of these debates.
A guy that sounds like Chat GPT. What type of insult is that? A guy that.
And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
I am unapologetic.
In my opinion, that was a very weak argument. He's trying to compare him to Obama. Well, one thing that they do have in common, one thing Vivek Ramaswamy and Barack Obama do have in common is that they both went to Harvard and they're both intelligent people. So maybe that's what Chris Christie was trying to get at when he made that comparison. You know, another question is, which I'm sure several people are going to ask themselves, is why is Chris Christie on stage? To be honest. You know, his jobs are not very witty or well thought out, rather ill-advised, not a particularly appealing candidate. Like, you know, intellectually not the most vibrant, but anyway, I don't want to criticize him too much because this is a recorded stream, but yeah, anyway.
Pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children, so I'm surrounded by blessings. When it comes to a federal ban, let's be honest with the American people and say it will take 60 Senate votes. It will take a majority of the House. So in order to do that, let's find consensus.
To be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people, they didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue, it's a moral issue.
Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation
but
to ban
70%
abortion
of the
after
Senate
a baby is
does
capable
not.
of experiencing pain.
If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
Did you notice that? Did you see what happened? So when they asked the question, it appeared that Vivek immediately had the answer to the question. And I would even submit that part of the reason he had the answer is because he thought these things out prior to getting on stage. He's a very deep thinker. He analyzes things. So he's probably analyzed all of the issues, repercussions, and thought to himself, what does he truly believe about these questions and how is it going to affect him politically? He's already made the political calculation. He's already made the political calculation. And if you look at that, he was the first one. After he did, other people followed him. Now, look what happens here. So, Ron DeSantis had to essentially look around, look right, look left before he thought to raise his own hand. This shows you exactly what is going on. Political calculations. Political. Why does it take Ron DeSantis this long before he understands? Okay, now is the time to come on one side of the issue or the other. Maybe a lack of leadership.
Whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States.
I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I had no
Vice
right to
President Pence.
overturn the election, and Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Thank you, Vice President.
Okay. Interesting. So, my thoughts on this were that Vivek certainly won the debate. Everybody was attacking him, and he spoke in the most authentic way. He did not appear to have pre-prepared talking points. And if you look at him, he's always smiling, relaxed. So he doesn't feel stress. He doesn't feel stress, and he doesn't have the same sort of desperation which a career politician has. You have to imagine if you spent your career as a politician trying to climb up the ladder, being a congressman, governor, senator, etc. Your objective essentially is to get the top job, is to get to the point where you are essentially appointed president. Imagine that. So imagine if you can't do that. If you can't do that, you feel like the world is ending basically, and you are going to be incredibly controlled when you ask certain questions because you don't want to say something that could wreck a lifelong dream. If you're a businessman or a successful entrepreneur, you're not thinking that. You think, yes, it would be nice if you could have political success, but if you don't, your life will go on and you'll be successful either way because you have a comfortable life. That's why you see a lot of business people, a lot of people who have success outside of politics, and they're very happy. They seem relaxed and they're constantly joking all the time because it's not a high stress situation. Because even if they don't win, they have their life already set up. They have their income set up. They have what they're going to be doing day to day, etc. They have another life outside of politics. If you don't have that other life outside of politics, people get stressed. They get stressed and they're paranoid. So that's why these politicians are always high stressed, overly controlled, and they're not exactly sure what they should say. So they sound controlled.